we learn the truth about Caleb's backstory, which conveniently plays right in line with Delores' strategy for a new revolution, provided to her by a first-generation and quite insane AI. And, of course, that also assumes she can get past a sword-wielding, gunship-controlling, and very pissed-off Maeve. Good luck with that. It's Westworld, Season 3, Episode 7, Passed Pawn. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Westworld. So yes, of course, all the spoilers coming your way. And as usual, do want to remind you about our quick jump index system. Right in the description below, we'll have this entire review titleized, time-stamped, broken down into easily digestible chunks. You can watch the end of the review first. You can watch the beginning last. You can watch this review in any order you'd like. Alright, so, Passed Pawn, our 7th and penultimate episode for this season. And if any of you were wondering, yes, a passed pawn is indeed a chess term. And refers to a pawn that is no longer blocked or threatened by any other pawn. It's not in front of it, there's not one ready to attack it. Basically, it is an open shot all the way to the end of the board, outside of any of the other fancy moving pieces, which then allows for the pawn to become another piece, recapture a previously captured piece. Obviously, something very important in endgame scenarios when you have some pawns that now have moved past the rest of the board, the rest of the field is broken down, and then all of a sudden your pawn can come up and recover your mighty queen, for instance, as a lost piece. So, yeah, a lot of very appropriate analogy, also showing the power of a previously unthought of important piece. Kayla both dismissed, well, somewhat by Bernard, but was a little curious, certainly by Maeve at the end of the episode, but also by society and everyone else. An outlier, as we start to learn very important pieces towards this entire plan for controlling the fate of humanity. And through this, we get Caleb's backstory, how he, in an interesting way that they're lending in, Bernard hits on this, how we start to see the humans now being programmed much like the hosts were. Again, it's always very interesting when you have these opposing forces start to be much more familiar, much more similar to each other than most prefer to fight. So, which means ultimately I would love for this to be some sort of team up between humans and hosts against a larger, more dangerous foe. Perhaps that is where we're going. But really more to the point of building up Caleb, and that's sort of what Delores does in this episode as well, is setting up Caleb to be the new leader, to be the passed pawn that breaks through and becomes the new king, the new leader, the new resurrector of past pieces and all of those types of things, to basically become the new face of the revolution, which is sort of an interesting take because we've been expecting Delores to do that. But what is it that Bernard sort of says is that Delores was programmed with a poetic sensibility. She's not going to destroy humanity. He is. So at least from Bernard's standpoint, the idea is here now we have Caleb brought up into that position of power, the new leadership, and that has all been set up by Delores in order to bring apart the downfall of humanity. But I think that might be too simplistic of a reason, and we will definitely be going into not only what the plan is, but what is the likelihood of that plan succeeding, and are there new variations that open up possibilities? I don't know, even an AI could not have computed. So let's get into sort of Caleb's whole story, which is again sort of the backbone of this episode. So what Caleb believed to be the truth was served in the army. There was a very cool kind of tracking setup with like nanoparticles and handprints on the bed and glasses that could see all of that, and then you link that up to a frickin' satellite that drops a bomb down onto, I mean, forget drones and stuff, just totally scary, but a very cool opening. But that was his job. He was in there with his buddy. They were serving. Only one of these jobs went sideways. Not only were they tracking the targets, but they themselves were being tracked. And it's done off screen, but even then we start to wonder about what's going on, because from how it was implied, we've just seen those satellite shots, and then we just get the sort of reaction and giant explosion from Caleb's viewpoint. Was his other unit guy also killed by a satellite kill? And in other words, was that the enemy controlling it, or was that their own people, their own commanders? I'm going to say the U.S., but I don't really know the whole government is really set up and all of this is. Taking out their own units as well, sort of cleaning house. So even there, I think there could be a lot of question raised up. But regardless, again, his memory from that point is that happens, then they go back, they want revenge, so they track down he and his buddy Francis, and they track down one of the heads of this unit, and that goes bad. They didn't get picked up, they try to take them out themselves, they run into some bad guys, the guy they captured is killed, Caleb's buddy Francis is killed, Caleb is the only survivor off of that. He comes back and he's trying to deal with the whole PTSD and so on. And he's working a construction job and taking Rico app jobs just to sort of make ends meet. That's the story that he believes it to be. Well, and again, that's only partially true. The beginning part, first, the whole cool satellite missile launch stuff, yeah, that happened. However, at that point, they were discharged, head wound and all. Sort of. They weren't sent right back. They were sent to Solomon's lab where they were reconditioned. Why? Because they are outliers. And like we had talked about, or had been mentioned early on before, these outliers, much like Jolie, much like Sarek's brother, who were messing up all the calculations. Very often they were given dead-end jobs or often thrown into the army where they'd be chewed up, killed, or spat back out, unable to really do a whole lot more. So we can see how Caleb was initially even sent in the army to do that. That doesn't work out. They send him to reconditioning in order to go capture other outliers. And they use the app in order to do that, which I love. It's so dark and evil. The app that you think is like just the crime app used to make some side bucks. No, that's how they're actually ordering and controlling their little army of reprogrammed outliers to go hunt down other outliers. So that's what he and Francis did, man, and they were good at it. Good at it. Until one day they captured the wrong guy, who's the actor I cannot remember, but he was played in Person of Interest. This very evil, dark guy, which is great because he looks so normal, but he's got just great simplistic delivery of voice, just sort of cuts through. I loved seeing him in this. But he's making noises, he's coughing, he's whatever. Caleb has a little bit of a heart, pulls off his gag, even though the app, not command, says not to listen to him, app says not to talk to him. Caleb's got a heart, gives him some drink, and that allows him to talk. And this gentleman, he's gone too far. He asked too many questions. He's too important. He's the head of the pharmaceutical company that makes the little limbic chips. Francis and Caleb and all those guys are programmed with the little roof thing that they stuck into William's mouth last week. In order to, it numbs memories as well as emotions and stuff like that. So it's a perfect thing for a killer. You don't feel the emotions, you don't remember it all that well, but also really nice to help control people. So this guy starts talking, starts giving them the lowdown of what's actually happening behind the scenes. And that's too much. You have a system that's always listening, they get separated. His buddy basically gets a message to, well, we'll give you some extra dollars if you kill your partner. Not to Caleb first, his partner. Why? His partner's got a kid. He's got medical conditions. Doctors are always seeing him, trying to figure out what that is. Easier to control someone that way. And what's the line? It was so harsh. Any human relationship can be adjusted with enough money. Oh, so dark. So, that's what ends up happening. His buddy gets the job. He needs the money. And I love how Caleb's able to sort of figure it out. Ask him, how much? You're going to kill me? How much did they offer? Enough. Exchange of gunfire. Caleb's forced to kill his friend Francis. And again, an interesting sort of repeat of imagery there as he's apologizing to his friend, trying to press down on his chest in a way to stop the bleeding. Exactly the same imagery that we had with Liam before. Remember, Liam was like, no, let me go back. Or when Liam died, Caleb's like, let me go back, let me try and press down. It's like, why is he doing this? What is this connection? It's this same memory that's being brought up, that's been suppressed this whole time. So then they send him back to the system, reprogram him, kick him back out. No, your buddy died in the army. Not out here. You weren't forced to kill him. So it's such a dark vision, but again, we are seeing how in this future humanity is very much like the hosts were. They're being programmed in order to fit a scenario that larger forces want to come into play. And outliers, well, they're not easily adjusted, so we got to kill them, or reprogram them, or stick them in a little frozen box in the Sonora Desert. Yeah, that's real nasty. Now, someone else who may or may not have been programmed here is William, recently freed by Bernard and Stubbs. Which again, a great little interaction, especially of William figuring out that Stubbs is actually a host. Ah, Park's been infected. Can opener, I'm not listening to you. God, William, it's just such a heartwarmer there. But we do get in little information in through here. One, obviously, the chemical that was in William's system was, again, sort of a tractor, not wasn't storing in all the memory or anything like that they were sending off from Delos. But no, was a program that did, once it got into the analyzers for the blood, allowed Delores to sort of hack into that system where William was, and that allowed her to track down where Solomon was. So that was sort of her indoor in. So that sort of makes sense. He was used, but in a minimal kind of amount. And what's interesting is sort of William's new purpose in life, to kill hosts. I mean, okay, at least in one sense he got a little clarity. He does understand. He's done a lot of damage. He's hurt people close to him. Those are good, important breakthroughs. Out of all of that, to see that the one stain that he can't undo is the host, the created, and therefore that is his purpose. Remember when he said he was going to be a good guy, and my question is, what is a good guy to him? Well, apparently this. Pro-human, anti-host. And I love the little exchange there. How he's just telling Bernard, look, I'm going to kill you all. So kill me now, or I will kill you later. And Stubbs looking over Bernard like, well, should we shoot him? This is the smartest thing. He's telling us to kill him. And of course, Bernard, we might need him later. True, and by the end of the episode, it does look like that might have been a bad choice from Bernard's standpoint, with William with a shotgun pointed at both of them. But is that William's own choice, or is he going through the same VR program? Remember, they talked about Caleb being this new procedure, and they mentioned William going through this new procedure with the limbics and the mouth thing and the VRs and all that stuff. Has he been programmed by Sarek to kill hosts? It would certainly work by Sarek. He's running all these, outlier fix-em machines places. So yeah, just sort of curious there. Is this something that William naturally came to by his own accord to try and undo what he has done? Or is this another play on Sarek, and William, again, is just being a pawn? unleashed against his enemies. It can go either way, that's what I'm saying. All right, now, of course, the action centerpiece of this episode is our big Delores Maeve face-off, which is awesome to see, I have to say. And in kind of an interesting setup they have, too, because in a way, Delores is just trying to hold Maeve off long enough. Maeve's trying to defeat Delores. Delores, in a way, is just trying to stave off Maeve. At this point, she is seemingly sacrificing herself for humanity's better future, which is sort of an interesting setup. You know, having Caleb stay behind, you have to get the strategy. You know, take whatever Solomon gives you and lead. You know, and in some ways it makes Delores seem almost heroic in her sacrifice for a better tomorrow for humanity. My people are going to be lost. This might be the end. You need to get away. It's sort of a great setup. Whether that's true or not, we'll sort of get into in a little bit. But it does sort of set up different goals for Maeve and Delores. One just has to delay, the other one has to defeat. A nice, quick conversation between the two of them, and it's something that they sort of re-hit. We touched on it last week. They dive into this a little bit more. In many ways, the two of them do not have to be enemies. In many ways, they are fighting for the same goals. Differences, of course, that Delores happens to have information, the gate key to host heaven, where everybody got sent off to, including Maeve's kid, and Maeve does not trust Delores to have that information. Also, Sarah kind of controlling her possible future in order to get that. That's beside the point. Really, the two of them are fighting because they have different... Their goals are same, their ways of doing it are different. Also, Delores, in many ways, killed off Hector, which, again, something else we'll touch on in just a little bit. So I love this sort of setup they get and the fact that they're really hitting on to these. And again, Delores really playing onto the idea that we shouldn't have to fight. It reinforces a lot of a heroic interpretation for her character, which is great depending on which way they eventually want to go. It's great to have those arcs. And just really overall a great fight. We've got Maeve being a badass with the sword, which was awesome. We're harkening back to season 2. Also, we had our Sato scene in the very beginning, which sort of plays into that as well. Some great hand-to-hand fights. Again, too capable. Tandy's a very physical actor. Evan Rachel Wood is a black belt. Another very physical actor. It's great when they can have these opportunities to do cool stuff. They do some great hand-to-hand. They do some great damage, which of course doesn't kill anyone, which only heightens everything. Great outside bit where they end up having to do a battle inside of this little hut because it's the one place that's out of line of their two backups. You've got Maeve, who's got the gunship that she can control because she can control everything with her mind. And then, of course, you've got Delores with the sniper rifle that's tied into the drone. So whenever the drone sets out targets, if anyone steps out, they can get shot. So it forces the two of the fighters to stay inside of this confined space and just sort of heightens everything up. Again, great choreography, great fight. Moment, when Delores gets her arm blown off. Was beautiful. And normally dismemberment bothers me and things. I guess the fact that Delores is a host and it's not really, she can be repaired and fixed. It doesn't have the same effect, but viscerally, very strong memory. And it's just a great way of, again, showing the difference in power when Maeve gets the hand up in the fight. And then we get the drag over to the EMP, which is such a beautiful thing. We've got the setup beforehand, where Delores specifically mentions military-grade EMP to keep Solomon from leaving. And at the time, she reaches behind her neck. And in some ways, it could be interpreted as she's talking to Solomon of, being trapped in a place. She's trapped inside of the brain, inside that's in her head, that's sort of where she's stuck in. That could have been interpreted that way. To me, it's more along the lines of this was part of her plan the whole time. Once she saw it, she knew how things were going to go. She knew she would probably have a limited amount of time, and that most likely this would be the only way out. So So it's sort of great to sucker that in and know that she's given just enough time for the strategy to be kicked out. And of course, Caleb's human. EMP's not going to do anything to him, but it will take out Solomon, and it will take out both Delores and Maeve, because they're mechanical. Or does it? See, that's the interesting thing. If this was Delores' plan, perhaps those pearls are shielded, are EMP shielded in some manner from accidents, overloads, electrical things. I mean, whatever design that might have come in there. If they are hardened against an EMP, then the body would shut down, but the memory core would stay intact. Now, of course, in the preview for next week, we do see the two of them facing off, so this is most likely the scenario. But I was thinking for a moment, that's a really brave choice to take out Delores and Maeve, both Evan Rachel Wood and Tandy Newton, out of the show. But yeah, they're not going to do that. So yeah, EMP takes out mechanical devices. Caleb's safe because he's human. Solomon's gone because this was designed to take him out. But Maeve and Delores, my guess is the pearls are hardened against an EMP. So the body's down, but the brain still working. And yeah, I know you're probably thinking, my God, Darren, you've talked about so many parts of the episode. You talked about an awesome fight. You talked about arms getting blown off. You talked about more face-offs between Maeve and Delores and all of Caleb's backstory. My God, man. What's a better scene than any of those? Well, of course, it's our Scene of the Week for this week. And it's a simple one. I know I've had some of the last ones have been more mental, more story-driven, the face-off, the discussion between Maeve and Delores last week. I like to sort of keep it guessing. Look at different parts of the episode. And yes, one of the more memorable moments were definitely Dolores' arm being blown off. And it was a great fight between the two of them. However, what really kind of stuck with me and in a way sort of set up a lot of that fight is the introduction of the drone and the sniper rifle. I love that whole setup. Because you have Caleb with this military kind of background, knowing things it's like, oh, what's that? No, we're too far out for a sniper rifle and to get things in. And then just the drone goes out like a bug. Great shot of it moving through, a little digital. We get the little blocks, little bits of it as it's all interpreting. And then it goes through and finds all of the people and marks them down on the sniper rifle scope programming. I don't know how it works. I don't need to know how it works. It's the future. Fine. It's tech. That's how it works. It's future tech. But it's just I loved having the drone go through. I love people like either ignoring it or not seeing it, it catching on light, it going in sound, it taking the people inside. And then once it's all marked out, and Delores is just, dun, 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 dun. I mean, okay, she have holstered it in and made a little bit more, and I guess it's all programmed. Doesn't matter. You just squeeze the trigger and it goes. But it was awesome. And then just the interior shot. Guy in the tower, down. 2 guards outside, down. Guys inside, down. It was an awesome scene. It was a corollary. I just love the final little bit when they do go inside. And the one guard comes around and she, BAM! And then turns and looks back and Caleb's like, you're right. 3 inside. It's just, I don't know. It was just kind of a perfect topper to that scene. All right, and I want to get into the plan, because ultimately this is really what it's all about. Dolores' plan for a new revolution, because I think there's a couple of different ways to interpret what this might be, and how it's actually going to play out. Now, from Solomon's discussion with Delores and Caleb, this is a particular variant. Oh, you're still here, I'm still here, so this must be variant, was it 471.36.x, whatever it is. Where both Caleb is viable and Solomon. Delores is a variable that can't be computed, and that's going to be really important. But for now, let's just look on the variant of what it is that Dolores' sort of plan is. So what she wants to do is use Sarek's brother's final strategy, Solomon came up with a bunch of different strategies, ideas to save humanity. But just before Sarek's brother was put away and locked inside the ice box right behind the computer, I love the kind of perfect, "You are the king of the frozen people." Great visuals. But she wants him to enact his last scenario. That was 15 years ago. A lot of the people that were involved in that, the movers, the shakers, the real mobile pieces, they're either dead or in the icebox with them. Okay, adjust for now current variables. All right. That's going to take time, and that's what Delores is waiting for. But so her plan is whatever Jean-Mi's final plan was. We don't know what that is. So that is one giant variable already. We are assuming that Delores does, or at least has interpreted what that might be. But we don't know, and it is never specified. So that's kind of one important thing. Bernard, from his standpoint, again, thinks that Delores programmed with a certain poetic sensibility. She wants humanity destroyed in order for hosts to have a place to live in. And that's a big conversation she's had constantly with Cale. I want a place for my people to be free. Bernard's interpretation is the only way that that can happen is if humanity is wiped out. Therefore, Delores' plan is to wipe out humanity. Because she has a poetic sensibility, she's not going to wipe out humanity herself. She's going to have Caleb do it, which is why she has sort of, raised him up as this passed pawn, this simple player, to now be a leader. Now take the king piece, or the queen piece, really, because once the king's out, it's the end of a chess game. But to become a new powerful piece to lead people, and through that leading, lead to the downfall of humanity. Because that's what outliers are. With outliers around, that led to downfall of humanity, and that's why they were all put away and hidden out. Okay, that's one interpretation. However, two very important adjustments to that. One, Caleb changes things a little bit. Remember, as he's about to leave, and Solomon says, if you deviate from this course, I can't guarantee these outliers. And he holds, and he goes back. So, yeah, going to hold on everything. But he says, tell me how to destroy your creator. Solomon replies, we don't have enough time to show all the variations. Just show me. Time is almost up. It's a quick calculation. Is that a variant within the final plan strategy that Delores ordered? That was Jean-Mi's final plan that possibly could lead to the destruction of humanity or not. We don't know. Is that a variation of it? Or does he have Solomon get him a new plan that is now different from that final plan that Delores wanted? Don't know. But it is an interesting variant that could come in. The other one, and to me the most important, most interesting part of this, again, Solomon can figure out all the variables, all of the people, knows everyone in every variation, except Delos products, except Delores, except the host. He cannot figure them out. He cannot account for that variable within the system. So the very fact that the hosts are here and interacting with humans changes everything. It changes the variables. So my hope within of this is, yes, humanity would be doomed. The outliers, those are the ones who can't be controlled. The chaos, the pluses and the minuses, that could lead to humanity's destruction. However, now with a new variable introduced, hosts whose future cannot be computed within those strategies and scenarios, is this how humanity actually survives? Not by destroying hosts, not by controlling outliers, but everyone coming together. A simpatico universe, as it were. They're giving us pieces. But I think that that could play into some very interesting stories of it's not separate we survive, it's together we survive. Separate, we all die. All right, so here, of course, Maeve gets her first sight of Caleb, Delores' new ally. which is sort of appropriate because, of course, Maeve has some new allies of her own, mainly in the guise of Clementine and Honorio, which is just, I love seeing the two of them. It sort of makes sense. Clementine, old friend of Maeve's. Trust. I like the fact that she's looking all normal. She had that weird, like, eye thing when they did the nose stuff, and thankfully that's gone. That was very disturbing. And of course, Honorio, who was the adventure, who was the sort of, was it, armicist of Shogun World. And I love that whole episode was also where we met Sato Musashi here. And I love that kind of, I loved her popping up as he sort of like, they have the great gun battle between Sato and Clementine. They got the briefcase that turns into a gun and the guards are all dying out and Sato's getting away and turns around and there's Honorio. Yeah! Musashi was a good man. You dishonor his image. And then cuts him like in half. It was awesome. And that's probably, of course, how Maeve was able to figure out where Delores was going to be because got a Delores brain inside of the Sato body. But of course, from that, Maeve is also getting an unexpected ally, possibly, and this is the interesting part, with Charlotte, who of course is the one that calls Sato in their very beginning and lets him know that Dolores' plan is to kill all of us, for all of us to die, and she's trimming house, she's cleaning things up. And again, interesting because it was Charlotte that actually killed Hector. And of course, Maeve's still very, very upset with Delores, other Delores, actually looking like Delores, for that happening, even though she knows that that was done by somebody else. But that somebody else being Charlotte, who has now given Maeve the introduction, or possibly couldn't have been Sarek, because Sarek just blew up her family. And again, it's sort of an interesting, I'm curious where they're going to have Charlotte playing this out. Is she on her own game? Is she quiet? Does Maeve know that she's working with this? Is this, again, another Delores variant that can start messing up these plans and strategies and changing things up? It sort of muddles the battlefield, but a battlefield like this should be a bit muddled. I like the fact that Charlotte is sort of a really variable, well, her own kind of variable within this new equation. Is she looking to save herself? Is she looking to destroy Sarek? Is she the one that's going to end up teaming up with Caleb down the road? They seem to be sharing, in a way, similar goals. Just, again, it's interesting. How is that going to work out with Maeve and the whole killing? And it's messy. It's beautiful. I love it. All right, just a couple of small things. One, remember all the designations and everybody's ID when it pops up on the Rehoboam app there? The U, I guess, is the indicator of an outlier. Both Caleb and William being used. Interesting, I think, also Ash, also another user of the Rico app, also a U. So Rico app, heavily used by outliers, apparently. So sort of an interesting way to sort of retrack where everybody is, seeing it through that lens. I guess also on a more personal note, personals. Remember, Cale did not like to take personals when he was finally working with Delores. That's the first thing Ash had said to him. Hey, you're doing personals now. You're stepping up your game. Well, I guess we get a reason why he doesn't do this from at least a sub-psychological level is the personal was the final hit that Francis had on him or that he had on Francis. You know, that's how it works. You'll get a personal in order to take out your partner. So I think that sort of memory, even if the specifics of the memory was repressed, that one stuck with him. So that's why he doesn't do personals. His last one, he had to kill his best friend. So even if he doesn't remember it, that would steer you away from that type of job. I'm just saying. All right, and our fan question this week comes from longtime viewer Cinny. Hi, Cinny. Always love getting your questions and comments. Who mentions a few things in her comments. But one question I did want to sort of zoom in on is regarding Charlotte. And why, if Sarek had his people wire up Charlotte's car to blow up, was there not gunmen waiting for Robo-Charlotte to pull herself out and the fiery Terminator-looking mess and mow her down, cut her to pieces, take her out? It's kind of an interesting question, actually, because if we're assuming it is Sarek's men who blew up the car, and Sarek did know that Delores was a host. So was it a miscalculation that he didn't think the hosts would be able to survive an explosion like that? Or did he just want to kill the family and maybe let Charlotte live? To be honest, I don't really have an answer to that. It's a really good question. And again, it could come to a couple of things. One, like you said, he just assumed that the explosion was going to take out the host as well. And so he didn't have anyone they could have. Maybe he doesn't know hosts. He's never been to Westworld. He doesn't know how durable that they are and just made a poor calculation. The other possibility is that he didn't do it in the hopes that Charlotte would then turn against Delores. That would make her feel that she is on her own, would wound her in a way to make her angry and in a way turn her against Delores. That I don't know so much, because you would assume that Charlotte would know that it was Sarek that blew her up. Why would that turn her against Delores? That would seem to only focus her more on Sarek. So, yeah, honestly, it's a really good question. There really should have been people there. Looking at it now, it is a bit of a hole. Unless we get something specifically that tells us there was a plan. Yeah, otherwise, I have to say, and I love how the show's built up, that does seem a possibility of that's just plot armor. We need this character to keep going, so she has to live through that explosion. I hope it's something else, but let's be honest. We can't put it past them. They can't think of everything, right? Sure they can. All right, well, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap us up. So, yeah, big setups now. We have potentially Maeve and Delores out. They're not going to be. We have Caleb with a new strategy for a new revolution that he's going to want to put into play. However, his motivation might be a little different from Dolores's. Did Delores mold Caleb properly to finish out her plans? Is he going to go off the rails and do a plan of his own? Is, of course, Maeve and everybody else's interaction going to alter that plan? Or perhaps all of them coming together, part of this battle, is going to create something new. A lot of questions up in the air. The only thing we can be sure of is they're going to have to answer most of them next week, because that's it. That's all. Season finale next week. One final episode. We're not going to have a giant war. We're going to have setup. We're going to have battle. And then next season will be, of course, the fallout from whatever it is that they decide to go to. I'm excited to see it, whatever it is. And I hope you guys are too. We'll definitely be here back next week for our final review. And possibly I will find out if we're going to do a live discussion with some other YouTube reviewers and sort of do a big gathering of the season. I'll let you guys know if I can work that out. Anyway, for now, we're done. We're wrapping it up. Thank you, as always, for joining me with these reviews. And if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments right down in the section below. What do you guys think of this episode? What do you think the plan is? Is it really the destruction of humanity? Is it maybe a utopia world where robot and human can live together? Android, AI, however you want to phrase that. Or is this going to be more of just a giant melty chaos system? Let me know what you guys are thinking. Throw those thoughts down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe, quick and easy. I know we got one more episode here, but the final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. starts May 27th. Been really looking forward to that. Hopefully you guys will join me with those reviews. If you want, be a subscriber. Quick and easy, one button press. You'll catch all those things. And we'll throw up a couple of our latest reviews right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.